Here's a question for you. Is religion really irrational? Because I'd argue yes, and if we really look at it, it becomes pretty painfully obvious that it's true. But don't leave it up to me. Let's take a psychotherapist and see if his list of irrational behaviors fits the religious. Because I have a feeling that every single one of them will. So let's go find out. Dr. Albert Ellis is a therapist specializing in rational emotive behavior, and he's come up with a list of 12 irrational things that a lot of people engage in. He defines irrational behavior as having these characteristics. It distorts reality. It is illogical. It prevents you from reaching your goals. It leads to unhealthy emotions, and it leads to self-defeating behavior. Now, I don't know if some of those are important in this context or not, so I'm going to go with a very simple definition as found in the dictionary. Irrationality is the quality of being illogical or unreasonable. But I think it's funny how many of these irrational behaviors the religious routinely engage in. So let's go take a look. It's a pretty damning condemnation of religiosity. Now, I've been saying that religion is inherently irrational for a very long time. The only people who seem to disagree with me are, no surprise, the religious. Yeah, I wonder why. Maybe it's because they don't want to be seen as the crazy people that, unfortunately, they actually are. I think it's our job to encourage people to behave in rational ways and to point out anywhere that people fail. Not to punish them, not to insult them, but to help them get better. Because religion is a mind poison, and the more people that we can get clean, the better it will be for all of us. So here's a list of Dr. Ellis's 12 irrational behaviors. The idea that it is a dire necessity for an adult human being to be loved or approved by virtually every significant other person in his community. Now, you notice how many religious groups talk about love, right? We love each other. We're all part of a family. And we've got leaders who will keep everyone doing the right thing. Or else it's the job of the community to come down on them like a ton of bricks. Now, this isn't just religion that does it, but it certainly is extremely common in religious circles. There's a right way to do things, and if you're not doing it the right way, then you're going to get disfellowshipped. So, there's one. How many more of these will fit the religious mindset? The idea that one should be thoroughly competent, adequate, and achieving in all possible respects if one is to consider oneself worthwhile. Now, this is kind of a weird one for religion, because not only are you supposed to be perfect and godly and put your beliefs first, but a lot of religions seem to think that people are inherently sinful and cannot succeed no matter how hard they try without the constant assistance of their imaginary friends. God expects perfection all the time, even though, by definition, you are incapable of providing it. Therefore, you have to spend all of your time groveling so this perfect God of yours doesn't flush your ass into eternal perdition. There's also the matter of religious guilt, where you feel bad because you can't do things that God has screwed you over on. I don't understand that part, but hey, God fucked you up. You have to feel bad about it. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. You tell me. The idea that certain people are bad, wicked, or villainous, and that they should be severely blamed and punished for their villainy. That kind of describes Christianity and, in fact, most religious beliefs, doesn't it? Isn't that the whole point of sin? That people are bad, wicked, and villainous, and can't help but being evil. That those people, if they do not repent of their sins and kiss God's ass, that they deserve to be cast into the eternal fires of hell and tortured for all eternity. This honestly isn't that difficult to see. It's a wholly irrational belief, yet it is the cornerstone of most religious faith. Imagine that! The idea that it is awful and catastrophic when things are not the way one would very much like them to be. This is the case far too often. Just look at religion when it gets involved in politics. It punishes anything that goes against its emotionally held beliefs. Gay marriage? Hell no! Abortion? You've got to be kidding! Other religions? Not if they've got anything to say about it. When other people sin, disasters happen. It's like a bald rationalization for why things aren't perfect all the time. So that counts as yet another one, doesn't it? The idea that human unhappiness is externally caused and that people have little or no ability to control their sorrows and disturbances. And yeah, once again, we're back to a perfect description of religion. The devil made me do it. Gay people cause hurricanes. Everything is completely beyond our control. You're not in charge of your own destiny, and the only way to achieve happiness is to exhort some magical man in the sky for help. God's in charge, and you are not. Life is misery without an imaginary friend. I trust you can see why this is so irrational. If you can't chart the course of your own destiny, then what's the point? This is followed by people who have unrealistic expectations and would rather wish for things to get better than to get off their asses and do something about it themselves. The idea that if something is or may be dangerous or fearsome, one should be terribly concerned about it and should keep dwelling on the possibility of it occurring. It's pretty much the same thing, especially when you get into fundamentalism. The more seriously you take religion, the worse it gets. How many evangelical preachers get up in the pulpit every Sunday and spout fire and brimstone about, well, reality? Everything is evil, you're a vile sinner, and you need to spend your life on your knees praying for forgiveness so the terrible things in the world won't bring you down. Fight against everything that your religion doesn't like. It's your God-ordained duty to win the fight against imaginary evil. It's really just ridiculous. The idea that it is easier to avoid than to face certain life difficulties and self-responsibilities. Well, isn't that what Christians do when they pray? They want to avoid reality by letting God take care of it. God will provide. God will take care of you, if only you have enough faith. Instead of taking steps on your own to take care of your own issues, Christians spend a lot of time on their knees asking God for things and then making excuses for why God doesn't come through. It's really kind of silly when you think about it, but the one thing that the religious largely lack is any sense of personal responsibility. Either it's all the devil's fault when things go wrong, or God is saying no. At no point does the Christian say, well, fuck God, I'm doing it myself. The idea that one should be dependent on others and need someone stronger than oneself on whom to rely. Well, that's Christianity right there, isn't it? Leave everything to God. You're too weak to do it on your own. You need some magical man in the sky on your side. You will always fail unless God is propping you up. But that's just childish, isn't it? It's not a matter of admitting weakness. It's a matter of keeping yourself weak. By believing that you're nothing without God, you're just wallowing in this irrational, immature behavior. But irrational and immature, those are two things that perfectly describe the religious, aren't they? The idea that one's past history is an all-important determiner of one's present behavior, and that because something once strongly affected one's life, it should indefinitely have a similar effect. Okay, Here we go. 2 words. Original sin. It's not just your own past that you have to worry about. It's the behavior of every human that has ever existed back to their imaginary original pair. Because the only way they can explain why humans aren't perfect is to pretend that perfection is inherently beyond the capacity of humanity. We are inherently tainted by the actions of people that they can't even prove existed. How fucked up is that? The idea that one should become quite upset over other people's problems and disturbances. Once again, this describes Christianity to a T. Why are so many Christians worried about what everyone else is doing in the privacy of their own bedrooms with other consenting adults? Why are they concerned about what's going on in everyone else's heads when it doesn't harm anyone? This is the very history of Christianity, isn't it? Hey, you're not performing the right rituals, or maybe you're performing them in the wrong way. Let's kill them! The Crusades, the Inquisitions, every religious war ever. It's all been religious people inordinately concerned with what other people are doing and what other people are thinking. If they can steal the other guy's wealth and land along the way, well, that's fine too. God must want them to do it, right? The idea that there is invariably a right, precise, and perfect solution to human problems, and that it is catastrophic if this perfect solution is not found. Oh look, religion once again. There is one and only one solution, and if you're not following that one and only solution, you're going to fry for all eternity for daring to go down the wrong path. This is the basis for religion punishing people for daring to stray from their one true way, and throwing gay people off of roofs, and demonizing them and denying them equal rights under the law. Because Christians and other theists are, at their core, complete dicks. The idea that you can give people, including yourself, a global rating as a human and that their general worth depends upon the goodness of their performances. Or which group they belong to. Can't forget that one. Because there are more than 42,000 distinct sects of Christianity, and every single one of them think that they and only they are right. Now let's not talk about entirely different religions, because they are definitely wrong. They bow down to the wrong gods and they read the wrong books. Therefore, they must be destroyed. It's funny how much religion comes around to violence, isn't it? But that seems to be the way that it works. When someone opposes your irrational beliefs, murder them. It isn't hard to find stories of atheists getting hacked up with machetes in Bangladesh or anything. It isn't hard to find Christians and Muslims killing each other wholesale in Africa. Hindus and Buddhists, they're hardly immune. It's all about following my rules, or as Ahmed the dead terrorist says, silence! How stupid is that? I think it's painfully obvious that the religious are inherently irrational in the practice of their religious beliefs. That's not how rational people operate. They fall into every single category that Dr. Albert Ellis defined, even though I really don't think he had the religious in mind when he came up with it. It just makes no sense. These people act like children. They believe things for bad reasons. They reject reality when it hurts their precious widow fifis. They insist that everyone has to be just like them so that they'll feel comforted, and when they're not, they react violently far too often because peace isn't a natural component of religious beliefs. It's really not that hard to understand. These people have problems. They always have, and they always will. That's why this channel exists, to point out just how badly religion screws people up. There is nothing of objective value there. It's just pathetic, and if you're part of it, you really ought to be ashamed of yourself. Do better. You've already done worse. It can only get better from here.
Bum